Everyone has an opinion, and everyone has a perspective, and everyone thinks theirs is the right one. So who's right? Or are we all wrong? Black and white thinking is detrimental to our creative thought and our ability to empathize with our fellow human beings. In this video, I will go into how our opinions limit us in a major way, and how empathy is a huge part of being creative. In this video, you'll be seeing me use colour to try and create palettes that I might like to use in the future. I thought it made sense with this video that's about black and whiteness. I want to preface all of this by saying that we should have our opinions, we should keep them if we want anything to happen in the world or change or whatever. What I'm suggesting is more of a tool to open our minds so we can grow new layers of empathy to expand our perspective of human experience, which then expands our creative expression. We've all heard of confirmation bias. The internet is great at that. It just gives us back stuff that we've shown the internet that we already agree with or like. It's a rare person who gives time to investigate and consider ideas and beliefs and whatever outside of their own belief system. Sometimes confirmation bias isn't confirmation bias, it's just propaganda. Which leads me on to this historical anecdote. My dad grew up in London during the time of the Troubles, which was a 30-yearish period of extreme strife and violence in Northern Ireland between the oppressed Catholic minority and the ruling Protestant majority. This won't be a history lesson, so suffice it to say that the Catholic side was demonised by the British establishment as just being murderous terrorists with very little criticism of their own side. But this didn't harden my dad against the Catholic cause. It actually led him to ask a question: what would make a group feel that such violence was so necessary? He went and he learnt about Britain's violent, oppressive rulership of the island of Ireland, which was not taught in British schools. My dad is probably a pacifist, but he said that he couldn't see how the Catholic population could have overcome this systemic oppression without this regrettable violence. All other attempts to be treated equally were quashed and brushed under the rug by the establishment over and over again. Basically, he gained a grey area perspective. He gained empathy for a group he could very easily have just pushed aside as overzealous murderers because the actions of the IRA at the time were being equated to the Catholic cause in general. So I believe that looking outside our own perspective, learning the other side's history, the life they're coming from, may help us understand first and judge second. When we understand first, it opens our minds and it connects us to something that's so fundamentally human, that we all have pasts and that we all suffer in different ways that lead down different paths, which leads me to talk about division. Compartmentalization is a great tool for our emotional, mental lives, but when it comes to our approach to humanity, our worldview, we can come up against some pretty problematic results, like racism and just general bigotry. Boxing people up into groups inherently implies they're not grey, complex individuals. Rather, they're all the same, with the same opinions, same beliefs, same pasts, same crimes. That sounds a lot like stereotyping, doesn't it? So then what have we done? We've only gone and dehumanized a bunch of people into a box. We'll have empathy for no one other than the people in our box. This box is empathy's coffin. It's its death. Because true empathy is expansive and universal, and it's concerned with the human condition itself. Our approach to humanity probably needs to change if we want humanity to change. We're all in the human group with our own unique challenges, some with less, some with more, some with invisible challenges. Understanding people for their unique, individual, complex lives rather than judging them based off their apparent, superficial grouping is the next way to evolve our human experience, I think. I'm pretty sure Jesus said stuff like that. The good is grey and rich with unique human experiences to learn from, and to empathize with. After all, black and white thinking is what allowed Hitler to become what he became and do what he did. The black and white thinking of the German populace had a root, like all things do. Some of these people were obviously very horrible people, like some of us today are obviously horrible people. But there was also a bunch of people who, after World War I, felt desperate and weak in their circumstances, so were then very easily fundamentalized by a very distorted message of hope and self-empowerment. Very distorted. So black and white thinking is destructive, not creative. It's been the modus operandi of many warlord nations to divide and conquer. Once we the people are divided, the powerful can squash us very easily. Then all we the people, become a judgmental, angry people, limiting ourselves into our own little boxes and believing that our box of empathy death is the only right one, which leads me to arrogance. Arrogance is a negative trait, I think we can all agree, but it seems nowadays it's covertly becoming valued. Being hard-headed and steadfast on one belief or idea isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It's rather the belief that your belief is the only right belief, that your worldview is the only righteous one, and that people outside of your beliefs are simply stupid or evil. So when talking about Nazi Germany, I found that we often like to think that we would not be part of that very disturbed majority that went along with it, or that we wouldn't have been caught up in the indoctrination and the self-aggrandizement. And this has always annoyed me, because chances are, very sadly, that we would have been part of that disturbed majority because we're not special. Hindsight is meaningless. Who do we think we are that we would be so much better? Atticus Finch, a lovely fictional man of justice, said, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it." I think we're becoming more and more arrogant. It's ugly and it's frankly immature. I think it's really bad for our humanitarian future. We can't change people by shaming them, by pushing them down, by ordering them about, by being self-righteous and telling them they're a disgrace and they're stupid. That's pushing people down. It's not lifting people up. Again, this arrogance is destructive, not creative. It is antithetical to the very wonders of our humanity, the uniqueness, the variation of each and every one of us within this one group, the billions upon billions of lives lived. How can we experience things deeply if we look at just one shallow puddle's reflection of the sky? Why don't we look at another puddle's reflection of the sky, or a lake's reflection of the sky, or a river? Or why don't we just look up? It's all so much bigger and better than you or me. How can we explore different creative avenues if the world is so singular and basic when we're looking at it through our cold, hard, opinionated perspective? That's tunnel vision, and it's a very lonely road. To have creative thought is to be able to put yourself in others' skin. It is to empathize with the other, even if it's just for a day or an hour. It doesn't stop us disagreeing with them, it doesn't stop us from thinking we're the right ones, but I'll bet we'll learn something about the human experience in the process. Something that will open little mind pockets of inspiration, because the grey isn't grey at all. It's rich with kaleidoscopic colour. Thank you for watching. Love and peace and bye.